Hello. So this training is being provided to give some general information about heat safety and what you can do to share with workers to help in the current situation, the way workers are in a lot of times in extreme and excess heat, some resources that IDRC has, and then some general understanding of things that we can share with them. So my name is Jessica Castaneda. I work as the IDRC coordinator, and I'm just going to kind of go through some slides, and hopefully this will be helpful information. So we realize a lot of us, you may watch the weather and it says you're in a heat dome and you may have temperatures that are 10, 15 degrees hotter than normal. And we know, like it says here, workers in the food production chain, particularly farm workers, are especially vulnerable to heat stress due to the type of work that they do. It's usually performed outdoors and it's usually under difficult working conditions. So we're, like it says in the line, 19 of the 20th warmest years that are on record have been since 2000. And we're not sure if this will just continue. And it's predicted to continue to rise. They expect by the end of the century, 1.2 billion people are going to be affected by heat stress, which is 4 times the number of people that are currently affected by extreme heat. So exposure to heat over time can cause, too much heat can cause adverse health effects. And so I want to talk a little bit about those so that we can be aware of the kind of challenges that our families are facing and the youth that we work with. So there are 2.4 million farm workers, according to the Economic Policy Institute, and they're working in all different kinds of jobs across the country, as you know, and they're expecting that climate change will have a direct impact on agriculture production. This can cause higher levels of poverty, food insecurity among agriculture workers, and because they'll have less hours due to the times of the day that they need to work, and they're worried that this might actually lead to a decline in agriculture production. So we know that this can be a real challenge, and it says as heat waves continue to grow in frequency and intensity, many of these workers are finding themselves face to face with increasingly dire working conditions. Many of us, and this is the real challenge, we may be going to a worker who works all day in the sun and being like, hey, you should do this. They know better than us the things that help them cope through that. But there may be some tools and resources that we can share that make their life a little bit better. So according to the Environmental Defense Fund, mortality from heat-related illnesses is 20 times higher for crop workers in the US than private industry or non-federal workers. On average, they're exposed to 21 days in the summer growing season that are unsafe due to heat. So there, can be a lot of, once you do experience heat exhaustion, it's easier in the future to experience that again. It says the combined effect of the metabolic heat produced internally from heavy physical activity. So you're already hot because of the activities that you're doing. And then the external heat from the surrounding environment, it puts them at greater risk. So it's been recognized as a vulnerable occupational group with an increased risk of adverse health outcomes from the rising temperatures. So occupational heat-related mortality is 30 times higher among agriculture workers compared to workers from other industries. And so, like it says there, they usually exceed the amount of heat that they're in exceeds international standards of what would be safe. So you look at the intensive manual labor they're doing, sometimes piece rate work makes it so that you're encouraged to work even faster. And so you may avoid taking breaks or hydrate. And then just the fact that you really don't have any control over workplace health and safety. And we may show up and say, hey, it's really important that you rest and you drink and you take breaks, but they may have no control over the ability to actually be able to do that. So they could also have lack of access of clean drinking water. And then one of the challenges, if you're hot all day and then you go home and you don't have a place with air conditioning where you can really cool off, that can have some adverse health effects over time also. So also many farm workers may have, where they're living is going to be, just like it says here, they could be extreme poverty, could be 4 to 5 times higher among agriculture workers compared to non-agriculture workers. So this is just going to continue to have an impact. And the less hours they have, this can have that decline in agriculture. And so this would also the fact that if you're not feeling good, of course, that can, decrease your productivity. So it says, although agriculture workers play a critical role in food production, studies have shown that they are highly food insecure. They endure precarious working conditions and earn low wages that hinder access to food. In addition, the loss of productivity expected to exacerbate their food insecurity, especially in small scale and subsistence agriculture. So all around, this is really challenging. There's something they call HRI, or health-related illnesses. These are common effects that happen because after prolonged exposure to high temperatures. These can be anything from sweating, dizziness, fatigue, vomiting, headaches, muscle cramps. And a lot of these happen later, like you may have a really bad muscle cramp in your calf at night when you go to sleep, and you think it's related to something else, but it could have been related just to the heat that you experienced during the day. So they have something called CKDUs, which are, it says here, these are chronic diseases of unknown etiology. Occupational heat exposure and dehydration have been linked to chronic kidney disease. And this is specifically, they've seen it a lot in Central America and Southeast Asia, and these are very hot regions. In addition, there can be conditions that may not seem related, but it can be fatigue, reduced alertness, deterioration in psychomotor abilities, and the loss of concentration can also be impacted. So other things such as gender and workload and piece rate and job decisions, if you're able to kind of control some of those things, all of these can all factor in. And then they also found some factoring if there is a lot of soda consumption, because it can lead to more dehydration, and if whether people have enough breaks or not. So several studies have shown that agriculture workers frequently perform strenuous physical activities under piece rate for payments, for example. So this may cause them to want to make sure that they're working faster and they're not going to take those breaks. And so this can be a challenge. So another factor that's really is a risk factor would be, can they just make any decisions? And so, such as where's the shade, and can they actually use the bathroom and water facilities? So it says this is likely due to a presence of a power imbalance between employers and agriculture workers, which prevents workers from making decisions about their health and safety or complaining about poor working conditions. We could give them the advice that they need to make sure they take the breaks, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do that. And then there may be, if we can reduce some of the soda consumptions, things like that, that can help. But sometimes workers take it to increase alertness and productivity, so that may be a hard thing to give up. So according to OSHA, workers should be encouraged to choose water over soda and other drinks containing caffeine and high sugar content, because these can increase the risk of dehydration. They found that females are even at a greater risk, because a lot of times if you have to go to the bathroom, it's not like you can just go under, by a tree or something. They have to be able to plan out where they're going to go and if there is a bathroom and if they can drink enough water. But of course, if you drink enough water, then you need to use the bathroom. And so as women working for longer durations in the agriculture sector experience frequent chronic delayed urination, which increases their risk of developing kidney disease. Males are more likely to perform strenuous activities such as picking or harvesting, and this also increases their risk. So a lot of times men may be doing even more strenuous activities. And so a lot of things that are all going to impact. So it says here that they've looked at that dehydration and heat strain are associated with kidney disease. They've been able to show that dehydration due to the loss of body water is well known to be associated with chronic kidney disease. In addition, heat strain resulting from heavy physical workload and hot environmental conditions can also lead to kidney injury. So these are permanent, damages. So they've been able to see that there are certain types of electrolyte solutions that can be really helpful. According to NIOSH, electrolyte replacement should be provided to workers in the form of sports drinks containing balanced electrolytes if excessive sweating occurs for 4 or more hours in hot conditions. So sugary beverages have also been seen as a risk factor for kidney disease among agriculture workers, although the studies are inconclusive. They show that the sugary beverage intake has been reported as a risk factor. So you want to think about the kind of things that they're drinking and using. The effect of fluid consumption also has been, when they're trying to figure out on the different studies, it says the literature has reported that fluid consumption of agriculture workers was often below the recommendations of occupational health agencies, and consequently resulted in a greater risk of kidney disease. So that fluid consumption is really important. So they've seen that the places where they have those KDUs, remember the CKDUs, these are the diseases of unknown etiology. They're mainly concentrated in poor agriculture communities characterized by heavy use of agrochemicals, hot and humid environments, and harsh working conditions, which in some of your states, it's exactly, the situation that your workers are in. So there's things like going to shaded areas, going to air-conditioned places after work, changing work hours and activities and extra breaks. That can be preventative measures, but again, this may be out of their hands. And so this idea of water, rest, and shade is really important, but in a lot of places, there aren't any regulations to really enforce that. Then there's clothing. Of course, we can share the importance of, I feel like this is something that a lot of workers already know, to have the right kind of clothing on. And you'll see a lot of times they have long sleeves and, light colored shirts. Sometimes you see black sweatshirts and you think, how on earth do they make it? But these are kind of information that we can share if it seems like workers are not aware of that, but many times they are aware. You should wear breathable, light colored, loose fitting clothing when working. Encourage sunscreen. I don't know if there's always use in that, but of course, a lot of workers you always see have hats. On the other hand, it says that one of the real challenges is, there could be these preventative measures, but people are really not able to use them. This idea of being cooled off after work, being able to go home and sit in the air conditioning and kind of let your body cool. My husband and I live down the road from a really cold river. And if you're ever really hot, you can always jump in there and you can feel your whole core, just get way cooled down. But not everybody has access to those kind of things. And so that can be a real challenge. So shade does not actually reduce the air temperature, but things are still cooler in the shade. Thanks to solar radiation, if you are in the direct sunlight, you will feel 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the air temperature reading. So we have a few tools that we want to share in our heat safety bags. So IDRC has heat safety kits that are available. They're available for free for our member states. They can have access of some of them. And they can't just order a million of them, but we can have some of them that they can use. You can buy them if you want. We sell them at cost, and those we offer as needed. So they're on our website. So I want to explain the things that we have in our, in the bag. And the things that included are a QR code that takes them to the Welcome to MEP page. We've got some cooling towels, 4 electrolyte packs, thermometer, and some ice packs. And I want to kind of explain those materials. So we know that heat illness can set in very quickly. It can be between 10 and 15 minutes. Your body can overheat. You can have muscle cramps, heavy sweating, weakness, tired. You can feel dizzy, nausea, vomiting, headache, confusion, all of those things. And you can kind of see fatigue is possible, between 80 to 90, 90 to 103. It's really easy to get those cramps, that heat exhaustion. If it's above 103, you can get heat stroke. And then over 125 is just, absolutely very likely that that's going to happen. And so this is, we want to be able to kind of have some information that can be helpful to share. So one of the things that we try to do is share the kind of things that you're going to feel when you have heat illness. And that can be dizziness, heat rash, muscle cramps, seizures, heat exhaustion, heat stroke. All of those kind of things can be fatal. So you want to make sure that that's, that they're really paying attention. So included in the bag is something called Trioral. These are specifically used when someone has had extreme sweating, extreme dehydration. And it says here, this formula is for oral rehydration salts that have been approved by the World Health Organization to replenish electrolytes during physical activity or moderate or severe diarrhea. We include 4 of those in each bag, and these can be purchased on Amazon. We also include an ice pack, 2 ice packs. They're little, small, like ones that can be in lunches, or it can be, the idea is in case that someone is really overheated, they can take those, they can put them in the armpit, in the groin, in the neck, the back, to be able to kind of cool that core temperature down as quick as possible. We also have cooling towels. Cooling towels, they're basically, like it says here, they're water activated and use evaporation to draw water away from the body. Many workers will have a cooler with drinks somewhere, and so they can kind of put those in there, get it in the water and pull it out, and you can put it on your neck, and wring that extra water out. But the way that it works, they have a combination of cooling and conduction to dissipate heat from the body. When the cooling material is soaked, it absorbs the heat from the body and releases it through the process of evaporation. And as the moisture evaporates, it cools the skin, providing relief from the heat. So most of our bags have 2 of those in there. We also have 2 little thermometers. These are Next Temp, and these are, we're not using the ones that are under the tongue. Basically, it's a little one it's a sticker that you can put it on their head, and you'll see that the little green will kind of light up right here up to a point. So this one right here is 98 0.6, because after if it's black, that's the temperature. The ones that are green are the ones that it hasn't yet, gotten to. So if it goes black all the way over to 101 right here, you're going to know that it's 101 point whatever that is right there. So those are the materials that we have in the bag, and we we encourage you to be aware of the information that you can share with workers. And when you give them the bag, if you have those bags, to make sure that you explain what's in those bags, what the electrolytes, they say it tastes like seawater, so they might want to put it with something else. But explaining that they have been able to prove that less kidney damage on the people that are able to stay hydrated and get those electrolytes back in. So these simple materials are a way that you can kind of talk about, the cooling down. If they use it on the neck, for example, the neck has a lot of blood vessels that go back and forth, and it's a good way to cool down. If you use the ice packs where needed, that can be, use those on someone that it looks like they're getting, way overheated. The ice pack is also kind of squishy, and they could put it in a hat or underneath a cooling towel if they themselves are starting to feel some of those symptoms. So they're just simple tools that you can have these discussions in the reality that they may not be able to get the rest they need. They may not be able to have all the drinks and, the shade that they need. At least this is something that, that you can kind of share with them. So I hope this has been helpful. Feel free to, Google, learn more about things that you can share. There's organizations that have resources, but we do have the bags for our member states, and then they are available at cost for other states if they would like to use that. So hope that's been helpful.